Hi, it's Steve here. We're just putting together the Champions program, and somebody said, with all these videos that are happening around the Masters and all that sort of stuff and the conferences, why don't you just put a quick overview together of what's going to be in the Champions program, and then we won't have to read it. We won't have to read the script anymore. So I said, okay, sounds a good idea to me. So for those folks out there, you're fantastic. You are CPP Masters, and I'm going to invite you to come along to an upcoming Champion session. And the champion session I'm specifically talking about today is the one that we'll be hosting in Melbourne in August this year. So I thought I'd give you a quick overview in case you haven't sort of got up to speed on what you've been doing. You'll recall from the Masters we covered off, we started off with process optimization, then we did customer alignment, then we did innovation, then we did performance management, and then lastly we finished with integration. Well, level 6, 7 and 8 of the Champions picks up from that awareness and that understanding, those tools, those techniques, and it begins to put them together in a cohesive plan. So what we do is we can build on our successful customer outcome approaches. So whichever one you've learned, whether it was the original mind mapping or whether it was the spirals that some of us learned, and in the last sort of 18 months or so, successful customer outcome canvas. Whichever way you've actually learned those, what we do is we learn how to begin to put those together in a coherent whole, so they represent our different categories of customer. And again, whether those customers are internal or external doesn't really matter. What we need to do is make sure that we're aligned to the needs and the successful customer outcomes. Alongside that, of course, the process activity mapping steps up to become causal mapping. So again, introducing and building on some of the techniques that you're already aware of, but doing it from a point of view of how do you manage lots of processes in this way? How do you sort of align them so that you're consistently moving in the right direction? So with that in mind, what we've got in there in terms of the strategic part of it is how do you build that model? How do you create that framework? The second sort of big element of the Champions program is where we talk about leadership. So what leadership models are emerging, and when we talk about leadership, of course we always think it's the guy upstairs, the gal upstairs who is leading everything, but it's more fundamental than that. It's leadership in this transformation program. So as we're moving, from inside out to outside in, what sort of leadership do we need to be putting into our organisations? What sort of leadership should we be expressing within the projects and the programs and the processes that we're transforming? We'll talk about, particularly on leadership models, some of the successes that have been achieved and also some of the pitfalls to avoid as you do that. The third element, and if you like, level 8, is what we refer to as execution. Now, of course, coming to Melbourne, we all know execution doesn't involve, doing nasty things to people. So in some countries, when we refer to execution, we have to change the name. But execution is really, how do you operationalise this? How do you make a self-sustaining system that doesn't need to keep going through this process of as is and to be? How do we just make it a way of life? So the creation of a customer experience centre, the idea that we can coordinate ourselves, simply put, everything that we're doing in the organisation in and around the customer experience, both creating expectations, making customers aware of them, and then managing towards them. Also having a line connected with what's actually happening out there at a day-to-day level, and are there other things that we should be incorporating into our programs, our projects and our processes. And of course, along the way we'll cover lots of new case studies that have emerged in the last couple of years. We'll talk about the experiences of others. There's a new set of videos in there. So you'll be able to take those back in your kit bag on your USB sticks and be able to download them from Dropbox to get access to them. And of course, the promise for all Champions programs is that it will be a meeting of progressive minds. So we have great fun, and I'm really looking forward to the Melbourne session, which is going to be at the Lindrum Hotel in Melbourne. I've checked the room out. It's a fantastic room for all the stuff that we're going to be doing, so please do have a look at the material, register on the link below, and I look forward to seeing you in Melbourne in a few weeks' time. Thank you very much.